Hello. And before you say anything, you're welcome. I know I look fantastic. This is your space to come to debrief after what we've all just witnessed. And for me, it was on in the background while we were doing like festivities with the entire. I mean, there's like literally 13 people in this house right now. We're doing festivities with everybody, and I had the game on in the background. But Arsenal, Manchester City, the game I've been looking forward to personally for weeks. The last time that any of the three title challengers will play against each other for the rest of the season in the Premier League. That is happening right now. Well, I mean, it just happened. It's over, and it was boring. But I have some thoughts because I've taken some time. I've assessed the reaction that everybody was doing while people were finding eggs. And honestly, I think we just need to be really thankful. You know what we need to be thankful for? Things like the World Cup final that we had between France and Argentina. Because so often in the most important games, particularly I think in the modern era, there is a tendency to, with such an emphasis on fluidity and game control, to make sure that every responsibility is kind of taken care of and it's a little less free flowing, a little less open. And in those big games, you're really trying not to lose. Because you know what? Arsenal and Manchester City, while a draw is not the best thing, it's a hell of a lot better than a loss, right? Because that means that you are not losing any points to one of your main title rivals. Obviously, the biggest beneficiary of all of this is Liverpool. You know that. I know that. If you're a Liverpool fan, you were begging for a draw. Okay, this is a great result. The Jurgen Klopp journey to ride off into the sunset on top of the Premier League a second time just got a huge boost, right? It's Liverpool's to lose, but I'm pretty darn sure that all three of these teams are going to drop points at some point. So it's a bit remiss to say that, right? There's 9 Premier League matches left for everybody, but back to the match itself. Everybody's talking about how boring it is, and I get that. It was pretty boring. Every time I was watching it, it was slow. I would say the last 10 minutes, there was some excitement. There was some back and forth. Manchester City were creating the chances, and everybody knew the stakes. But most big matches suck. They do. The stakes are great. The intensity is great. People that were saying they were like falling asleep at halftime. It's like, no, was the match exciting? No, it wasn't particularly exciting, but you were still there. You were still on the edge of your seat, waiting for what might be that one important moment that's going to determine the entire title race. And while it never happened, that's always a possibility. In these big matches, teams get tight, players get tight. You really, really don't want to be the one to make the mistake. And sometimes the willingness to not make the mistake outweighs the desire to go out and take a risk and make a play. That's what makes certain big match players so special. That's why players become heroes for being able to do it. In the particularly big matches, sorry, my ears keep falling off and they must stay on. The show must go on. Somebody's got to be the Easter Bunny, and damn it, I'm going to be the best Easter Bunny you've ever seen. But no eggs. No eggs for Manchester City and no eggs for Arsenal. I do have a couple of takeaways from this. One, obviously, being the Liverpool situation. I think if you're a Liverpool fan, you're incredibly happy with this, right? Now, it is amazing to me that over the last 9 matches, there's no more matchups between any of these teams. It's a straight run-in. A couple of games with Manchester United. Everybody seems to know already. Tottenham plays all 3 of these teams. They're obviously going to be a threat. Villa plays a couple of them as well. So there are very big, tough matches out there in the league, but none between the top 3 anymore. This was the last one, and it played out like the last one. And now Liverpool, if it can win, which would be really impressive, its last 9 matches, will win the league. As a result, they're the favorite, right? And I think I might have this pulled out here. I don't. Never mind. But the percent chance for Liverpool to win the league is now 43%, and then 31% or I think it's 42%, sorry, and then 31% chance for Manchester City and a 27% chance for Arsenal to actually win the league. And look, I think personally, no matter what ends up happening, this is going to be really exciting. That's my number one takeaway. Outside of the actual quality of the match, which is we need to be very, very thankful when big matches are actually exciting, because I feel like especially after the World Cup, we're expecting a 3-3 extra time shootout. Obviously, extra time wasn't on the tape, but that just doesn't happen. It just does not happen much. That was the best World Cup final of all time. And even like Champions League semifinals, like the Real Madrid, Manchester City, where Real Madrid comes from behind in the 90th minute most of the time, that's not the way that it is. That's what makes those matches so particularly special. But that does not take away from the fact that we are about to get an all-time finish here. We have 3 teams within 3 points with 9 matches to go. No other leagues got that going on. All right, this is where the focus of almost the entire world when it comes to a league race is going to be locked in on, because all 3 of those teams have a story. Manchester City can keep the dominance going before they get yeeted down to the National League if they're found guilty of their billion charges, right? Arsenal can finally break through and complete its rebuild. Liverpool can send Klopp off into the sunset and get one more for this kind of golden generation that Liverpool has had. All of those are on the table. All of those are tasty. All of those are aspirational, right? Pep Guardiola trying to continuously prove he's the best manager of all time. Maybe the last time we ever see Jurgen Klopp on a sideline. Mikel Arteta trying to get himself into that conversation is somebody that can build himself up into that way. It's awesome. It's going to be epic. And even though this match sucked, a lot of the other ones are going to be great, right? And there's going to be dramatic moments and 90th minute goals and equalizers and, debates on penalty calls and ups and downs, and the Champions League is going on at the same time. That's going to be providing some pretty epic amounts of drama. It's going to be great. And I'm very, very excited, even if I wasn't particularly excited today. There is one other takeaway, something that I think does get overlooked. The fact that defense is half of the game. And it's this tweet right here, BR Football. They illustrate it well. Man City had scored in 57 consecutive games at home, and Arsenal got out of there with a clean sheet. People were getting on Arsenal a lot for playing counter, for playing defensive, for trying to control the game. Brother, Manchester City has won 4 of the last 5 Premier Leagues, all right? And they do it particularly by controlling the game and then using that to score a lot, while Manchester City controlled large portions of this game. There were only 3 shots on goal total in the entire game between both teams. That's a huge victory for Arsenal, right? This is basically based off of the previous results of the last couple of years, especially with Kevin De Bruyne being back. And I think if we're all aware of the fact that if Kevin De Bruyne was on Manchester City the whole season, they'd probably be top of the league right now, right? So you're probably looking at the best team right now in the Prem. This is being able to produce that when it matters most. That's huge. No, was the offensive part of the game there? No, Gabby Jesus wasn't great, right? That's been a problem for Arsenal for a little while. But the fact that, dude, these ears, whatever, I'm married to the game, the ears stay. But the fact that they were able to come in and produce defense is half the game. They were able to come in and produce a defensive performance like this with the trophy on the line, right? With the league on the line, where if you lose this match, it's going to be really hard for you to win the league. And you're able to come out there and shut out Manchester City at home for the first time in 57 matches. That's very impressive. Even though the match was boring, if I'm an Arsenal fan, I'm over the moon about that. And I have people being mad at Arsenal for playing that way. Well, Manchester City's rampant, all right? Not that any of these teams aren't, but this Manchester City, particularly at home, is going to be a rampant problem. And they clearly came out to go, we're not going to let them score. If we can find our opportunities, great. But our goal is to not let Manchester City score. And they did that. That's really impressive. That's a championship-type performance, right? Because it's not always the most overall talented team that wins. And Arsenal really can go talent for talent with Manchester City in a lot of areas. But it's the team that's got the right plan, the right organization, and is able to execute under pressure. And Arsenal was able to execute its defensive game plan under, the largest amount of pressure that they've probably ever faced as a team before. All eyes were on this match for weeks. Everybody knew that if a team could win this match, they would kind of be the going favorite to be able to win the league title. And nobody won. So we get this open-ended race that's beautiful, but it is worth giving Arsenal its flowers for being able to set up a clean sheet on the road. If you're Manchester City, you're probably concerned that you weren't able to create more at home. Being at home, it's got to be the key advantage in this situation. And also with the title experience. They have a lot more title experience. All Arsenal has experience with is bottling the league last year, which I thought was a little harsh on Arsenal. But that's what Arsenal has experience with. You've got Champions League winning experience all over the Manchester City team, and nobody was able to deliver the goods. And I think in that sense, this feels like a point gained for Arsenal. Some demons exercised, right? I was talking about the other video that I just recorded. I'm talking about a Harry Kane exorcism that's due down the line. Well, this was, we at least got some of the demons out for Arsenal. I mean, you just handled the best that Manchester City could throw at you, and you came out still standing, right? You left the ring still on your feet. Kind of split decision draw, bring it back, bring the fight back again, sort of thing. And that's a point gain for Arsenal. It felt like 2 points lost for Manchester City. This was the game that Manchester City always wins, and they did not win it. They didn't win it. Arsenal was able to keep I do have the percentages. Huh, but I remembered them right. Look at me go. Arsenal was able to keep Manchester City's XG under 1 right here, and obviously it didn't create a lot more than that, but I agree with, even though this is obviously an Arsenal fan Twitter account, insane defensive performance. Man City never really looked like scoring. I wouldn't go that far. City did get some sustainable pressure, but the defensive ability of this, particularly the central defenders on Arsenal, was peak. It was timely. It was exactly what the doctor ordered. And they got the result. I mean, look, Arsenal, if I probably wouldn't do this in public, but if you offered Mikel Arteta a draw in private, he'd probably shake your hand off for it. That's at least what I'm thinking. And so now we've got the title race in. It's going to be great. The match was boring. We need to appreciate when big matches actually live up to the hype. Probably even more than we do. Because, dude, these big matches, nobody wants to be the dude that makes the mistake. And not enough guys, particularly on Manchester City, were taking the chances to try and put the pressure on. I'm just saying. As for who do I think is going to win it, actually leaning towards Liverpool now. If City won this game, I would have said City. And Manchester City's inevitable, right? 4 of the last 5 years, it's what they do. But dynasties are built to fall. Just look at Bayern Munich, right, this year. Dynasties are built to fall, and all it takes is that one slip, that Steven Gerrard slip, to open that door. Liverpool, very quietly, they've been moving a bit off the radar because we were building up this City-Arsenal duo. They're in the driver's seat. I'm just saying. Nothing to lose. Playing for the gaffer. I think I might be leaning Liverpool. Could just be the ears talking. I don't know. See you guys.